Sometimes you have too many hands. And it's hard to fathom that, but there can be too many hands, but people always want to help. And that's the rad thing. So it does always happen. I mean, hell, I rebuilt the bike and had it ready in an hour and 15 minutes, and the rider decided it hurt too much, he didn't want to ride. So stuff like that happens too.
Hey, Rob Silva. I'm super excited for you to be on my podcast. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thanks for having me, Eric. I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, no worries. Hey, listen, my car's been running flawless. I have a 2011 Audi A4 station wagon. Okay, we're going to call it the Avant because so we don't say station wagon. It's a bad word, right? Anyways, I have a 2011 Audi A4. It's been running flawlessly. I made a right turn today, and then I've noticed that somebody was coming up from behind me really, really quickly. So I gave it a goose, and all of a sudden my check engine light came on. It went into limp mode. I couldn't and then the car started shaking like crazy. So definitely engine misfire, right? I go into my house. I grab the little OBD2 scanner. I plug it in. It needs a firmware update. That takes 15 minutes. So long story short is, I'm looking at about, I don't know, man. I don't even know exactly what's wrong. I just know that there's 2 engine misfires, and there's a bunch of other issues. Plus my blower for my HVAC in the car went last week. So that's another $100 at least just to buy the part.
Well,
then I got
the warranty you get on it, Eric.
No, the warranty's done. I mean, it's 2011, right?
There you go.
I tried.
Chevy did the same thing. The diehard battery, 5 years. Said it was a 5-year battery. Came out of the store, dead battery. Couldn't figure out. No warranty, no nothing. Looked at the date, 5 years, 1 month.
Wow, really?
I'm just kidding with you, man. I'm sure it's nothing that bad. Normally, I have found over the years I'm not much of a car guy, but you know what? It's either something really stupid or something really bad.
Yeah, I am hoping is as simple as spark plugs. Right?
You're hoping it's simple spark plugs. You know what? Being a professional motorcycle mechanic, don't tell anybody this, but when I work on my car, I go through stupid stuff like that too. And then I'll one piece at a time. I'll go in the store, and I was a parts guy at one time in my life. And I'll walk in there, and the guy asks me, "Spark plugs? You need cap and wires too?" "No, just spark plugs." The next day, I'll be back, and I'll get the cap. And then the next day, I'll come back and get the wires. And eventually, I find out it's something stupid. I didn't need any of that stuff. So hopefully, that's your case too.
Yeah, I am really hoping for that. Although I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I don't have a great memory. I think I changed my spark plugs maybe about 2 years ago, maybe. So it shouldn't be the plugs, is what I'm saying.
You gassed it from a dead stop really quick, trying to
No, I was doing about 15 miles, about 20, 25 kilometers, whatever. And I just gave it, I just gave it a bit of throttle. I didn't floor it, but I gave it, I said, hey, let's go. And it didn't. So anyways.
Unfortunately / fortunately, luckily you have a lot of electronics. That is kind of the beauty of electronics. Yeah. That normally makes it usually something stupid even more. So hope for that as well.
Okay.
I highly doubt it's something really bad mechanical.
Yeah, let's knock on wood. So the reason why I brought that story up is because I kind of feel for you, right, as a professional motorcycle racing mechanic. How often do you have to deal with gremlins like this where the guy comes in and he's like, I don't know what's wrong, and you have like 4 hours to fix it before the guy goes racing? Does that ever happen, and how do you deal with that?
You know what? That will always happen. It doesn't happen as much as it did in the early days. And if you're prepared, but you can't always be prepared enough, obviously. Honestly, going back to electronics, the majority of issues we have now, it's something simple with electronics. It's just an adjustment. It's just a code. It's just a map number. It's just something simple. So it's not that bad. But if you're not electronic savvy, which is not my strong point, it can be overwhelming at times. But that's why you're lucky enough. If you're on a good team to have a good data guy that knows this stuff in and out, and they get taken care of really quick. Or mechanical stuff. When you're at the racetrack, you plan for stuff like that. So if you have an engine go bad, you pretty much know it automatically. So you just replace an engine, which can be done in about 30 minutes to an hour if you have the time. It can actually be done under 30 minutes if you really don't have the time, believe it or not. But so that's the thing in this day and age for us. Normally, everything's so sound and everything's built so well at the factory that it's usually a little electronic flip between something communicating and something else.
Yeah, I remember. This is probably even 20 years ago. I remember one time, a long time ago. I remember watching, I don't know, Sportsnet or some kind of sporting channel, and they had engine rebuild races where you had two teams of mechanics, and then who gets to rebuild the engine fastest. I thought that was fascinating, and then I thought to myself, can you really go that fast and not worry about screwing a screw in wrong, like putting a threading it wrong?
Not in my world, but I'm like overly cautious. I think a lot of us are. So to do that, it would be more of a show for sure. As far as replacing engines, you can do that safely without missing something, and that happens. I mean, I've seen some serious clashing over the years where you would never imagine that it would be back together and it'd be in one piece and everything would be running, but it happens. So that is possible. To do an engine, you would have to do a lot of engines. There would have to be a lot of the same engines than my theory. And I don't know for sure if they just threw engines at them, that would be more of a challenge, I would think. But to do it without missing something, it would be mainly just for a show. I don't think you'd want to do it to pay your bills that day. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or you're going to race.
Yeah. Now I'm going to ask a really stupid question. Now I still ride a CBR 929. So I think it's one of the first CBRs with fuel injection. And so there's not a lot of electronics, or none, obviously, other than there is an ECU, right? And so the only thing I've done to the bike is I put on an aftermarket exhaust and I threw in a power commander to remap remap it, right? So what I know of modern bikes is like zero. So on a modern bike, especially a modern race bike, do you have essentially like an OBD2 port? Like OBD2, like a car? Do you have like a car, like in a car, there's a port for you to plug in a dongle and it'll tell you what's wrong with the car, right?
Oh, yeah.
On modern bikes, yeah.
Racing wise, no, you do not.
Okay.
In a dealership for bigger bikes that have electronics, I mean, you know what? I'm a little behind myself because the electronics we deal with are pretty much aftermarket, so it's kind of a preset system that you work with that's different than stuff. The biggest problem we run into is dashes. The dashes are really central to the whole system. There's a lot more to the dash than just an LCD screen like it used to be. And there are a lot of race bikes. It's gotten better, but we found, 2016 when the new ZX10 came out, the race teams, even with their data acquisition systems and everything they had, if you took the fairing off, the stock dash would still be mounted below it. So it's really hard to bypass that stuff. So yes, I'm sure at a dealership you can. I mean, another thing we found out on accident recently is they put bikes are governed now, where they do break-in maps.
Oh, really?
400 to 800 miles. You can only go past a certain RPM. You can only do so much. And it's a break-in map, which is actually pretty cool if you think about it from a manufacturer's standpoint. I mean, imagine your warranty claims would pretty much get cut in half. Joe Blow can't go up and do wheelies for 5 miles straight and seize the crank rod and the bearing in the engine and come back and scream warranty. They can plug it in and they can say, and that's the other thing, even after that, you can go in there and say, oh, no, you did this and you did that and you did this. So I'd have to imagine we enjoy the tailoring of the electronics now, but I'm sure manufacturers enjoy the control of the electronics now. So that is one thing that I've seen that it's a good insurance policy for everybody all the way around. And good thing you're adding this because I kind of lost where they're going, but pretty much, yeah, I mean, as far as OEM bikes, I'm sure you can plug in at the dealership. I haven't worked in a dealership for quite a long time.
Right.
But yes, I'm sure you can.
If you've just rejoined the podcast, you'll realize the scenery's changed a little bit. We had a little bit of an internet issue. I'm going to blame Rob anyways. But anyways, we're back. So
hey, the price of living in the sticks, bro. The price of living in the sticks.
Yeah. How long have you lived out there? in the middle of nowhere.
15 years this year. 15 years. We're 45 minutes away from Temecula and 45 minutes away from Palm Springs. So we can get to where we need to go. We need to. So it's not that bad. It's not. It's peaceful. You can ride your dirt bikes and no one ditches.
That's good. That's what I like to hear. My brother-in-law's mom has 10 acres. So he's actually building like jumps and stuff. And I'm like, that's super rad. I can't ride a dirt bike to save my life, but
most street bike guys can. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. No. And I can't even.
I have a CBR 954, so I totally blend with you on technology.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
But they haven't changed much.
Okay. So I like the fact that you told me you ride a CBR, and yet your day job is kind of the Kawasaki test rider.
It is.
And they're cool with you not riding a Kawasaki.
I've had the Honda for 17 years, so it's pretty much an heirloom. We'll just call it that.
Yeah.
And as far as I saw in my contract, there's nothing against having other brand motorcycles in your garage, but yes, I do need to update. My daily ride is a 2007 CRF 450X, which I love.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to update brands. I plan on that. Apparently, if you're really good and after a year, you can really dig into the loan pool. You don't have to spend your own money. So I'm working towards that.
Good.
And I think I'll get some green plastic for the CRF and everything.
Nice. Now, how did you land such an amazing job? Other than the fact you have skill, that's obvious. But it's got to be a bit of a luck, right?
It is luck, and I think you interviewed Derek Keys. Derek Keys and I have worked really close over the years, and he has a rider that I worked with many years, Andrew Lee, and they've been very successful. So we spent a lot of time together, and probably mainly by default, I'm one of the only people that lives really close to the test track. They all have to get a hotel when they come to the test track. So I think living close probably helped a little bit. But it was brought up about a year and a half ago when we were both working, and close to Christmas this year, I got a call one day and asked if I was interested, and there was a spot, and I took it and elected to kind of stay home from road racing this year for the first time in about 20-something years.
Wow.
But it is a dream job. I will give you that. It is a dream job.
Yeah.
I think at least the first 2 to 3 days, every time I came in doing a lap, or every time I came in after doing a session, first thing I'd say when I'd get in the shop, you sure they're paying us for this? You sure they're paying us for this? It just doesn't seem right. So it's pretty cool. I dig it a lot.
Yeah.
It still allows me to, I have a little more of an open schedule than I thought I would, so it still allows me time to do that.
Okay, good. Do you get a lot of direct input, and do they actually implement the feedback that you give, or is it kind of like, oh, cool, amazing, but we have Kawasaki Japan and we're just going to do our own thing, or we have Kawasaki Europe and we're going to do our own thing? Like, how much input do you give, and how much is valid input that you see that make changes to? The majority of what we do is endurance testing. We pretty much drive until it breaks. Oh. And, in the beginning, of course, especially I was a test rider 20 years ago, and back then your job was to try to break stuff as fast as you can. It's different now, especially when you're with a deal like this. It's not so much about being fast. We all are competitive, and we will look at our lap times and stuff like that, but it took me about a week to figure out. It's more about consistency. They want you to be consistent throughout the lap. They want you to do the same thing repetitively over and over again. If it was something besides riding a motorcycle or driving a UTV, that would suck. But it's actually not too bad. Yeah. Do they ask you to ride in a specific style at all? Do they ever say, okay, for the next 40 laps, I need you to slide it as much as you can?
For endurance testing, no. Like, back in the old days when I do suspension testing and things like that, most definitely.
Yeah.
All the time. Quite a bit. Just to try different settings and try different balances of the bike as you ride and things like that. As far as endurance testing, there's not much asked about anything. If you come in with something broken, then you won.
You get a bonus? You get a bonus for breaking it back.
If you did not break it, if it broke itself out of endurance testing, then you're a hero. If you broke it, you're not a hero. So that's the goal, to be consistent and not break things that weren't meant to be broken.
So my 929, actually, this is almost 10 years now. My 929 kickstand broke out of the blue. Like, literally, I stopped riding. I parked my bike. I put the kickstand down, and it's broken half. And I'm like, how did that happen?
Can I tell you?
Yeah.
You buy it used?
No.
You had it?
Huh?
You've had it the whole time?
I've had it the whole time.
And the only thing that can really do that is I've noticed over the years, people, when they want to lube their chain, they will push it onto their kickstand and you can spin the wheel and you can lube the chain. But if you've had it the whole time and haven't done that, then that sounds a little defective.
I've occasionally used it to pivot the bike.
To pivot the bike. That's amazing. You know, bro, I call it motorcycle CSI. It's awesome. I had a shop for a while. I sucked at it. You know why? I didn't know how to play motorcycle CSI. People come in and say, it ran great. Can you just do a tune-up? That means it sat for 2 to 3 years, and the carb is dirty,
right?
And the gas is extremely bad. And, you know, you have to call them, tell them this. But they tell you, well, when I put it away, it ran fantastic. There's always a cause for an action. There's always an action for a cause. So there you go. So, and you were doubting. You were saying, dude, these guys suck. Someone messed up at the factory. They got bubbles in their mold. Weren't you? All right.
Damn it. Red-handed.
Okay. Hey, dude, it takes a lifetime. It takes a lifetime.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention. You got to hear what people say. I mean, he's a good friend of mine, a mentor, a riding buddy, and he does tours in Mexico, and he brought a YZ250S back that one of his guides was riding up. Anyway, he said, listen, can you rejet it? The thing, it's way too lean. And he goes, and also, can you straighten out the radiator on the left-hand side? They fell over and they bent the radiator in a little bit, right?
Okay.
3 days later, after rejetting the carb at least 10 times and just scratching my head, and I'm sitting there staring at the bike, and all of a sudden I go, radiator. So I took the radiator shroud off, took the bolts off the radiator, looked back behind there, the stator wire that comes up from the stator and runs behind the radiator. Radiator crushed against it and pinched it, and the wires were arcing against the frame.
Wow.
3 days. And of course, you can't charge anybody for that. But yeah, that's why I call it motorcycle CSI. That's what they say when they bring it in. So, anyway.
So, I want to. We had talked on the phone briefly before we had jumped in this podcast. I think about a week and a half ago. And one of the things we had brought up was, why isn't Andrew racing? Right? Andrew Lee. Right? He's not on a bike right now, right?
Opie Cunningham?
Yeah. Yes.
Are you old enough to know who Opie Cunningham is?
Yeah, I am old enough, and I've never heard that in reference to him, but now that you said it, I'm like, it makes 100% sense.
Yeah, he's a great kid, dude. He's a great kid.
He's a really good guy. Yeah.
16, and why is he not racing? Rules and regulation. And, you know, there's been a million debates about this. A million debates. And the thing is, there's rules. You know, the rules, right? You know, you have to look at the rules. Motor America's set up the 1,000 stock class as a feeder class, as a class to move up into the bigger Superbike class, the 650 foot class. And of course, most people, even me, being older, you know, you automatically think, how can 1,000 be a southern class?
Yeah.
One thing is, 1,000 is much smaller and much more agile and almost the same size as 600 was 10 years ago. So it's not a huge transition bike. And due to those rules, you know, it's kind of like Supercross. I don't know if you're familiar with that. In motocross, if you are in the 125 class for so long, you point out so you can move on, so other people can come in and move up in class. So that is the rules, and that's the regulations of it. Now, the other part of it is the class is not that big. So this is my personal. The class isn't that big, and it hasn't really turned into a feeder class. If there was 40 riders, stacked up grids, and there was people waiting to qualify and someone was sandbagging, then that's totally understandable. And that would be the RC Cup. Oh, I'm sorry, the Junior Cup. That's what that is known for, and that's what that is meant for. So did they plan that when they made the rules? Obviously they did. You know, did they plan on having a huge participation level in that class? Probably not. And there are some places we go to, but a lot of those times are local racers trying to make their name as well, which is what it's made for. And then the bottom line is, Andrew Lee does not have the money to fund a Superbike team. You know, it's quite a big jump between electronics, between suspension, between engine packages. It's quite a bit of money. I'm not going to say how much money it is. People can just fathom how much. And when you're paying for everything with sponsors, it's a hard jump to make. It has to be a team effort.
Yeah.
One individual. I mean, you most definitely can. But that's the thing. Andrew's, has paid for his own ride for the last few years. And it's got to the point where it doesn't make sense to really go do that just to prove yourself. So I know there was a lot of talk and there was a lot of debate about, letting him back in the class, but it stands where it stands and it is what it is. And we talked quite a bit about it, and I'll give him credit. I have a hard time staying home after 20-something years on the road.
Right.
And doing it before. But he's a champion. When you're a champion, it's hard, man. It's really hard to come off that high. So I give him credit. He's been very humble about it. He's working. He works for an HVAC company that's actually Joe's a personal sponsor of his since he's been racing since he was a kid. And he trains, and he trains like he's racing. So he's there. He's ready. For both of us, I don't speak for both of us, but I think we both kind of agree. If there's a year to miss, this probably isn't a bad year to miss. That's not against anybody. It's, everything was together and now it's not together. No one really knows exactly how many rounds there will be. So like I've told him and I tell myself, if there's a year to miss, this probably isn't the worst one. And fortunately for Andrew, he's 21 years old. Unfortunately for them, when they're 21 years old, they think they're like 40 and it's going to be tomorrow. So it's far from going to be that. And Andrew's talent is going to take a long way for a long time. So yeah, it sucks. But it's not really anybody's fault. And that's one thing. I can have my opinions and stuff like that, and everybody else can, but the rules are the rules. They made the rules. It's their program. It's their series.
Right.
And, in their defense, I've been dealing with it since the day they took it over. And they seem to learn from their, I don't want to say mistakes, but decisions, and they adapt, and they're not so set in their ways. So things can change, but as far as this year goes, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, it is too bad. I admit.
It's not fair, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. What I wanted to talk about was really about your wrenching days. On top of everything else, I'm switching topics a little bit here, but your wrenching days. I mean, tell me a story. You've already kind of mentioned it a little bit, but tell me a story where a time where you're like, there is no way in hell I can get this bike ready. I know it's 30 minutes to get a bike motor changed out, but has there been times where you're like, there's no way I can get this ready, and then it just happens?
In the beginning, Eric, there's no way it's ever going to happen. You don't think there's other. The beautiful thing, dude, I love about road racing is the camaraderie. Camaraderie, however you want to say it. Maybe you can edit that and put the right word in there. But everybody, no matter if you're cussing each other out and wanting to beat the crap out of each other early in the morning, everybody throws in. Sometimes you have too many hands, and it's hard to fathom that, but there can be too many hands. But people always want to help, and that's the rad thing. So it does always happen. I mean, hell, I rebuilt the bike and had it ready in an hour and 15 minutes, and the rider decided it hurt too much, he didn't want to ride. So stuff like that happens too. Then you have riders like Daytona Anderson. The Daytona we had his first year. He had a broken collarbone, he had broken ribs, he had food poisoning. Sonoma, he puked on the gas tank his last lap of qualifying.
Oh, wow.
His last lap of qualifying, and it ended up being his fastest lap of qualifying. I think he got P5, which was pretty. I mean, it was pretty stacked in 2017. So, anyways, the next morning we had a little fun, and if you're not having fun, you shouldn't even be out there. Mm-hmm. And we had an extra plastic bag, and long story short, we made him a little puke bag for his tank.
Nice.
Put on there, Jack before puking or something like that. And but the kid did great. He ended up finishing in the top 10 that weekend. It was rough. But the best was with Daytona was Utah, Miller, 2017. This first weekend where we didn't have broken ribs or broken collarbone, which we had to keep secret the entire time, which is pretty hard to do. And that was a spectacular race where Lady Beach and You're a lot tangled up on the last lap, and we knew we were going to finish at least fourth, and it was a great race. And Jason Uridi was really pushing Daytona. And that last 3/4 of a lap was the longest 3/4 of a lap of my life, and I'll never forget. One of our guys, Jonathan Lay, was sitting there, and he knew what was going on. I was just sitting there, standing there, just froze and just waiting, and Jonathan shaking around, going like this, and it's like shush, shush, shush. And when they came through, Daytona had no idea. He had no idea they crashed. I don't know how they didn't see it. They didn't see the tingle. He thought he was still fourth, and he was just pumped that he just beat Jason Uridi because Jason was really on him. And that just proved if you're not there, you have to be there in order to get it. And that was definitely don't ever give up. That was don't ever give up. That was fantastic. Most people put an asterisk against that podium, but never. You have to be there to win it. You have to be there, and he was there. He capitalized. So that was a good time. And as far as bikes never getting finished, Andrew Lee, he got finished, but it was his first professional race at Atlanta. And, cocky kid, humble, cool kid, but cocky, ready to go. And it was first lap of practice, and grabbed a handful of brakes, wadded up, messed up his wrist. We went to the hospital. The doctors and nurses, they're all, it's broken, let's do x-rays. He's in serious pain. Went there for about an hour. And we've only been working together for a month. And now I'm his guardian, and they're doing medical advice and all this. And also the doctors and the nurses, they all came in. And they didn't want to. And they even said, I don't know how, and I don't want to tell you this, but it's not pro. We'll both go to each other. It's about 5 in the afternoon. We missed practice. We missed qualifying. And my wife used to work at Moto America, so she would share a room with us. She's always good to have around. We put him on the program. We gave him some Motrin, and he's like, there's no way I can race tomorrow. I know. Gave him some ice and Motrin, and about 9 o'clock at night, he said, I think I can do it. I'm like, well, let's just see how things go in the morning. So he passed out, and I snuck to the track, and I snuck into the track and put his bike back together. And it took a while. It was pretty wadded up, and I put his bike back together, and he showed up the track, and he went out. He qualified, and pain was too much, but he went out and qualified and started the first lap of the race, and then that was it. But it was worth every bit of it. But that was probably the biggest struggle. One of the biggest struggles.
Wow, that's an insane story. And
it was worth it, and that's the thing. That's another thing. If the rider is worth it, we'll do anything, and that's any mechanic. If the rider is worth it, and if he wants to, we all do it. The whole thing.
That makes sense. So let me ask you this: what defines a good, in your estimation? What defines a good racing team? What did the camaraderie that you were mentioning earlier? How does that gel? Are there specific things that you look for? Are there certain things you avoid? What is it? Because I'm sure you've had good and bad, right?
It is good and bad, and that's the thing. Some teams you can go to, and sometimes it depends on management. The management can set the tone of a lot of environments. That's usually a big thing. Egos, we've all got egos. Every one of us got egos. That's why we're there. That's always a hard thing. But, respect. After you're with people for a while, that's the biggest thing, is to have respect for people. No one knows who can do what most of the time, so you never know what someone can do. So you always have to be respectful until you know what they can do. And, a lot of it, one thing, a lot of the racing industry is volunteers. That's how a lot of people get started. They volunteer. So you have to be patient with people, and you have to understand that. And that scares some people away when they're not familiar with that. But it's kind of like the military, man. But a lot of us have never been in the military. We all spend a lot of time together. Supercross and motocross, we used to spend 36 weeks a year together before we spent family. So it grows like that. You're just all there for one purpose too. So if you're all there for one purpose, it helps a lot. Organization, having stuff done before it shows up helps a lot, keeps tensions down, preparation. But there's a lot into that. That's what a lot of people don't see. There's 2 to 3 months of building bodywork. Bodywork's built, and you got to put it together. There's got to be stickers. You got to do all the rivets and all stuff like that. There's lots of stuff that goes into it. And that helps a lot. It makes your job a lot easier. And sleep and food. That's always key too.
Yeah. But I imagine as a racing mechanic, you don't get enough sleep because you're wrenching all the time.
If you're not wrenching, you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad thing. I mean, that's another reason we're there. We all enjoy challenges. Honestly, in the beginning, oh gosh, man, I mean, I would have a Post-it pad next to my bed in the hotel room so I could write stuff down just so I wouldn't forget it, just in case I forgot it. Because that's a lot of things people don't think about. There's a lot of stuff you have to think about throughout the day. You have to think about going through tech inspection. You have to think about tires. You have to think about if you have all the right tires, if you have the right selection. There's lots of stuff that have to be ready. When that all comes together, you know whether it's going to be a good weekend by Thursday evening, Friday morning. But as far as good teams go, everybody has the right intention, experience, years in the paddock, all simple stuff like that.
Yeah. I want to talk about racing a little bit more, especially in your career. I know in 2017 you were in an epic super sport battle and you came in second place. And now that was for the season, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. No, we didn't come. We got fourth. We got fourth that year. I think fourth overall.
Okay. As a competitive person, you say everybody is an ego. Does that eat at you still? Do you still think about it sometimes? I wish I had just done this different or done that different.
No, I wish I could say that, but no. When you have the right rider and you plan ahead, you can't look back and say, "I wish I did that." You do know my rider won a championship last year, right?
No, I get it. I'm not dissing you.
All right.
I'm not dissing you. I'm just like in my mind, I'm a sore loser, right? I was just playing cards with the. Yeah.
I totally see what you're saying. Do I think, for that season he was hurt. He was hurt a lot, and for what he did being hurt, holy shit, man, that was huge. It was totally huge. And like I said, none of the team knew. And no one found out till the end. I finally said something, and I got my ass chewed for it. They shouldn't let everybody know. But he did well. And so you can't really say anything about it. And for being a little guy, Daytona's tough. He's really tough. Like I said, broken ribs, a broken collarbone, all thanks to a mountain bike and dirt bike. See, that's why road racing is kind of safe.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys get hurt training more than do racing, right?
Very much so.
Yeah. What is the best training regimen? What is the best way now for younger kids, the 9-10-year-olds to get into road racing? Because it feels like, obviously dirt is a good way of doing things, but now with all the new mini motos that are coming, like the new ovales and things like that, is that a viable option? Is that a better way? What do you think?
Oh, it's definitely a better way. Especially being old, I started out in dirt before I started out on the street, so it builds skills. I mean, Andrew, all my riders that I've worked with over the years, they all ride motorcycles, which is somewhat frowned upon by team owners once in a while, which is fully understandable because there is more room for accidents, more of a chance, more of a risk. And as far as, training accidents, I believe, in my opinion, that happens a lot because you're complacent. You're out there, you're not out there being competitive. You're not on the edge. So that's why accidents do happen a lot. In my opinion, when you're competing, you're so focused and you're so on it. If it happens, it's supposed to happen. Dirt bikes are a great start. I think the problem is, and I think it will be for a long time, is the cost. Even 4-stroke dirt bikes today, which cost 3 times more to maintain than 2-strokes did in the old days. And they're much more complicated. A father and son can't do it as easily as they did in the old days. Road racing is always going to be expensive. And the machine is always going to be about 20 to 30% more. And tires. If someone can make tires that don't cost $200 a piece, and if they didn't go out after one race or after a qualifying session, they have a gold mine. The tire company doesn't have a gold mine. So, you go that way. It's getting better. It's getting way better. We have track days now. Track days, 20 years ago, track days weren't as prevalent as they are now. It wasn't a business, so there wasn't so many of them. Now today, if you want to practice even for racers, if you want to practice road racing, you can actually go to a track 3 to 4 days out of the week. You couldn't do that 2025. So the cost, the entry fees to go to a track day is not cheap. So practicing for it doesn't make it easy. So it's almost got to be a passion. And that's where I tell everybody, and we talk about it all the time, television. Television is so different now. I mean, the way I got hooked on racing and motorcycles was ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Right.
Good afternoon. My dad was a car guy. My dad hated motorcycles because my first accident was on my mom's motorcycle. I tipped it over in the driveway on the center stand and broke my femur and my collarbone when I was 2. So he wasn't a big fan of motorcycles. I think it was like 5 or 6. Sunday afternoon, and it was a road racing GP. I want to say, and I don't want to say, I want to say who was racing it, but from that point forward, I was hooked. And that's what we miss today, is the father and son, and not just motorcycling, other sports. The father and son sitting around on a Sunday, flipping through the channels, and they see motorcycle racing. They see go-kart racing. And they look at each other and go, that looks fun, Dad. That does look fun. We should give that a try. And I might be dating myself, but that's the way it used to work. So I think more interaction like that would help, where father and son see it more as something to do. Now, there's so many things people can do and kids can do. I mean, you can ride a motorcycle on the computer that's pretty much the same damn thing as doing it in person. So that makes it harder to get people focused on it and to bring kids. It's not as easy as it is. Do I think it will last? No. Because eventually, the human beings going to want to go fast. They're going to get bored. Not to drag it on, and it might be far-fetched, but automated cars are going to be the best thing ever happened to motorsports someday. It's going to take a while, but I personally believe that after a while of everybody being drove around, people are human beings going to want to feel the power themselves. They're going to want to control it themselves. And my hope is that, 20 years from now, there's no dirt and land left anymore. There's tarmac circuits throughout the world. It's almost like the golf course, the driving ranges in Japan. They're open at night. You want to go have some fun, you go drive your car around track. That's my hope. And everything, I mean, anybody in business can tell you, it comes in circles. The 90s suck. The 90s absolutely suck. And look what came out of the 90s. The EX500 and the EX50, which are still being raced today.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing, smaller displacement bikes, not to drag it on anymore, but smaller displacement bikes are the answer. You get kids using them to commute to college or high school, and all of a sudden, like, hey, man, that's pretty badass. This is better than my PlayStation. This is actually fun. And they get it, hopefully. Or at least do a track day. Track days helps the industry as well. So they'll come back, and then they will tell you. It comes in cycles. We're up against something a little more technologically advanced than we have been over the other slow periods. I think deep down, everybody's going to want to go fast one way or another sometime.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at anything to go by, unfortunately, is how the Canadian races are. 2 things I want to mention. One thing is that first of all, I haven't looked at a new bike in the last 20 years. And I literally, when I found out how much the new CBR 1000R, the SP, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like Canadian dollars, like $23,000, right? And I'm like, my gosh, I remember when I got my bike, I paid $14,400 plus tax. Again, Canadian dollars. So it's about, 11, 12 grand. US.
8,900.
Right? Yeah. And I'm like, I can't believe it. It's the cost of a car. That's a Honda Civic in Canada, right? For a low spec Honda Civic or Nissan Sentra or something like that, like a lower, cheaper car. That's the price of a car. That is ridiculous. And no wonder the 400s and the 500s or the 300s are kind of, popular now, right? That's the one thing I want to say. And I'm like, wow, that really does kind of kill the barrier, the barrier, right? Like the entry barrier, whatever. That's number one. Number 2 is if you look at Canadian Superbike racing, it's kind of sad. There's only 6 races a year. And I think 3 or maybe even 4 races out of the 6, it's still in the same province in Ontario. And what's even worse is out of those 4, 2 of them are run on the same track. Like the beginning of the year and the end of the year, it's the same bloody track. And I'm
really quick. Who's won the championship every year for the last decade too?
I just assume it's Jordan Zoe because that's the only guy I know. I'm sorry, Jordan. I love you, man.
And that's the thing. It's not his fault. It's not Mopar Canadian Sports' fault. It's not Motor America's fault. What happened was, everybody dropped the ball. I don't know about Canada, but here, I won't say a decade, but there was almost a decade where there was no motorcycle racing on TV, not continually. However, MotoGP was. And that, in my opinion, is where we lost a lot of viewers. And now today, unfortunately, because in America, up to 15 years ago, it was kind of hard to find MotoGP on TV in America. It wasn't as prevalent. It wasn't as easy to access. Once we disappeared and that took over, you would think, okay, that would promote us too. But no, they kind of forgot about us. And now a lot of people kind of see that as the premiere, which makes us, we are viewed as as a national series. We are viewed the national series in the world. Even when there's, World GP and World Superbike, America was always it. Unfortunately, I guess what I'm saying is a decade of MotoGP on TV, and that's not, took a lot of momentum. And that's unfortunate. And I don't, you can't blame anybody for that. There's a variety of things that happen at the wrong time, at the right time. And, Moto America, I mean, them to take it when they took it, most people with common sense would have done that.
Yeah.
And that's pure. And that's one thing we didn't have for a long, probably since the beginning, is passion. So that helps a lot. Their passion makes a huge difference. But the market for them right now is terrible. And that's not their fault. It's just been inherited. So kind of got back to the root of the question, but
yeah,
it goes back to everything else. It goes in cycles, and this time it's going to take some time. It's going to take consistency as far as the rounds go. I mean, we have 10 to 11 rounds, which is huge for us, considering we got down to 3 rounds in 2014 with John Ulrich with Throw Racing World. Made the Superbike Shootout Series, which gave us some more rounds, which saved us and actually kind of showed we were viable at the same time. So, your guess is as good as mine, Eric.
Yeah, no, that is a continual theme and topic on this podcast is why isn't motorcycle racing more popular, right? I've said this on the podcast like 50 million times. I'll say it again, is it's more exciting than any other type of racing you can have, right? I mean, F1 car, NASCAR, they're fine sports. They're great to watch, but it's a guy in a bubble. You have no idea if he's sweating or doing anything else. I have an old friend of mine. Anyways, he used to race for Porsche, and he did Le Mans 24-hour Le Mans. And I say, hey, you're in that car for like 8 hours. What do you do when you got to take a piss? He's like, what do you mean? I just pee. He goes, you're sweating so much anyway, you cannot tell, you cannot smell. It's just liquid at that point, right? So my point is this, right? Like in a car, you can pick your nose, nobody notice, right? But on a bike, they see every move you make. They see every, motion you do to the bike. And I think it's, again, way more exciting. So, I don't know. Yeah.
When's the last time you tried to get someone that's not into motorcycling to watch a motorcycle race, the whole race?
The whole race. Oh, it's been many years, man. I tried. Yeah.
It's not easy. And that's the thing. Just like all motorsports, it's a passion. And if you don't have the passion, it's not that easy. And that's the thing. And that goes back to bringing new people into it. Not everybody understands. Things have gotten better. A couple of years ago, we had combined classes, which we have combined classes now, but the bikes are so close, you don't notice it. But about 5 years ago, when the classes were combined, that was so confusing, even to me, who's been around my entire life. But that was part of the economic downturn, too. And we're kind of back in the same boat right now. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
I guess the bottom line is, less crises, more motorcycle racing. That's all I can say.
Yeah. And it's got to be close motorcycle racing. Part of the reason why my wife won't watch MotoGP is, it's Marc Marquez. He's 5 seconds ahead. Right?
It used to be way worse. I don't know if you remember, but it used to be way worse. And that's another thing I'll give Moto American credit for. They came in and they made the rules the rules. Not that there wasn't rules before, but the rules before weren't contested if it benefited you, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now the rules, and going back to Andrew Lee, the rules are the rules, but that's the thing. They've actually set up a fair playing field, and you have to respect all of them. And rules are the rules.
Yeah, I get it. We're running up to an hour here. Are you cool to go on? Do you want to? You're good?
You know what? I got pizza that's been sitting on the side of the table for about 10 minutes. Do you have enough, or do you need some more?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy because I'll be honest with you, the audio quality wasn't the best. Like we could talk for days, but the audio quality for a podcast isn't amazing, and you're cutting in and out quite a bit. I'm kind of concerned with it, the quality.
What you have, Eric? If you need anything from me, you know where to find me. I just don't know if my internet will ever work for a shit. I'd have to go down to the city and hang out in one of those internet cafes or something.
Oh, we'll figure something out.
Eric,
sure.
I'm not going to do that.
I don't know. Maybe that's what you have to do. Who knows? Stand up and hold on.
Worst case scenario, we'll do it late at night when none of the rednecks are looking up porn out here.
Fair enough. Yeah, I can stay as late as I can stay up as late as you need.
That's good. I had a good time, man. I hope I did good for you.
No, it was really enjoyable. I really liked it. Usually we talk a lot longer. Just I know that the audio is not in the best shape. So
that's cool.
Because I did want to ask you about Johnny Rock Page. What is that like, and was it fun?
It was an experience. Johnny Rock Page. You know, Johnny, a lot of people don't understand. Johnny is deep down, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's a big kid. He's done some things over the years that have been pretty spectacular. I counted to, honestly, WWF. In the beginning, Johnny was really good. It was, in my opinion, a lot of it was an act. It was an act. He likes messing with people. He's, it's Johnny. I got Johnny by default, and I don't regret it. You know what? We did good together. And when you're working with Johnny, you accept it's Johnny. And, I guess the best story I got about Johnny is Sonoma. It was the Superbike shootout race promoted by John Ulrich and those guys. And he went to church that morning, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a godly person. It's great. And I wouldn't have thought about it all until what happened. And, we go through practice and everything's great. And Sunday morning, we're getting ready to start race 2. And I walk away from his bike and I go over the wall and I look over at him. He's just looking at me and he's just going like this. And he's looking at the bike going like this. And I'm like looking at him. The flag drops and he pushes the bike over and they put it on the side of the starting line and the race continued. He just came back and I said, "What's wrong with the bike?" And he just gave me this blank stare and he walked away. And then when the race is over, I go to get the bike, and I walk over and I push the start button. It starts right up. I'm like, what the hell? And finally, back in the garage, I asked him, I said, your bike ran. Why didn't you start the race? Because God told me not to. You did enough, Johnny. Did enough. And that was the last time we worked together. And that was, I think, and John, he's a special person. It wasn't, I could imagine worse. And then the same thing, it probably gave me a little credibility with the rest of the paddock because I didn't lose my sanity. But yeah.
Right.
Johnny's Johnny.
Yeah, and I don't know him at all. Like, I just did the podcast with him. I've interacted with him briefly on Facebook, this and that. So to me, he seems to be like a pretty okay guy. Look, you got to give him a bit of credit for whatever it's worth. At the age of 51, he still wanted a race at the Daytona 200. And not many 51-year-olds would want to do that. Forget qualifying, getting in, whatever. But the fact that he's still in the throw leg over the bike. So that's pretty cool.
Well, in Johnny's defense, whenever Johnny did get on the bike, he put all his effort into it. And the last story about Johnny, going to do a little testing in between. It was summertime. We went out to Utah. It was a rear race. And it was me and my wife and our daughter. And our daughter, I think she was about 5 or 6 back then. And we got to the track and everything shut off. Everything shut off. Johnny was the most normal, down-to-earth individual. Him and my daughter became best friends. There's a lot more to Johnny than what Johnny likes people to see. And it was a great time. It was a great time. We had a great time racing. He put everything into it. He wadded up a bike huge, going for it, trying to win his class. Pulled out his other bike. He got right back on the race. So, like I said, when Johnny wanted to race, Johnny raced.
Nice. And I think we'll end it on that.
And on that note, Eric, brother.
Yeah, go eat your pizza. We'll chat very soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Eric, very much.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon. Bye now.